Hello, it's Jacqueline Harris. Good afternoon. You can actually use this time and you can be proactive to try and do something to help yourself and to help your chances when you do try to conceive, whether that's naturally or whether with fertility treatment. And by all means, if you are trying to consider to conceive naturally right now, then this is still ideal information for you to start implementing literally straight away. So, just when we look at the physiology of what's happening in both the male and the female body, the male process of the maturation of the spermatogenesis, takes around 72 days, like around 3 months. And so, when anyone's trying to conceive in that particular month, those sperm started their maturation process a good 3 months before that. So that means that theoretically, anything that's been happening in a man's health, his environmental exposure, his whether he's been sick with a fever or anything like that, could potentially have influenced the sperm that are actually being manufactured in his body or right now, and that his body is releasing and ready to try and help with conception. Similarly, while most of us think that the egg that we release each month only comes up or really develops during that follicular phase, so that first part of your cycle before ovulation, and it's true that the full maturation process really does, the final maturation process really does happen in that last 14 or the 14 days of the first 14 days or so of your follicular cycle. Um, it's probably months before that the very early like the early stages of development or maturation of that follicle ready for an egg to be matured and released has been happening. So women also have months, and I've seen some things that say up to 8 months before, and I've seen other resources that say 3 months before. But regardless, it's many months before that little follicle sort of started on its development process. And so a woman also has the opportunity to think, well, these 3 months that maybe things are on hold might be the perfect opportunity for you to take to work on improving things, so that when you either go for a fertility treatment or in another 3 months' time when you're trying to conceive naturally, you really have a really healthy follicle there. And again, as I said, if you're already trying right now, then the information I'm about to tell you is still really important, because, well, like I said, the final stage of egg development actually does happen in those 14 days in the follicular phase, which you could try and influence. Now, also in my own experience, I've been working with women as a naturopath since 2005, focusing on helping them improve their overall health and fertility potential, largely with nutrition, with diet, with supplements, with herbal medicine, and it's really when I sit down with someone and they ask me, like, how long is this going to take? Realistically, it's going to be a minimum of 3 months. Or no, realistically, I mean, some people do conceive before the 3 month time frame, but I say realistically, let's give this at least 3 months. And for some people, that might take 6 months, but 3 to 6 months before we start to really see really amazing positive changes, in blood tests or in their temperature charts or the symptoms of their cycle, that kind of thing. So allowing yourself 3 months to actually work on all the different areas that we would need to work on is really important. So, for example, when I'm looking at trying to, when I'm considering a person's or an individual's or a couple's fertility potential, I'm considering everything from their overall, well, obviously the egg and the sperm, but also their overall hormonal health and the hormonal balance. That includes things like thyroid. It also includes the stress hormones. So the stress hormones that we release under any time of stress, and I know a lot of people are running on these high in their body right now, but just even the day-to-day type stress hormones significantly influence reproduction in our body. And so trying to work on those stress hormones from our adrenal glands, I always say, let's give that 3 months, because we're trying to repair what's, for most people, a chronic or long-term impact on their body, like a stress that's been around for a really long time. So working on your adrenal glands, maybe it's working on your gut health, maybe it's working on balancing maybe estrogen and progesterone, or supporting your body to produce more healthy progesterone for itself. Maybe it's an immune system issue that we need to consider. Maybe there's antibodies that your body's manufacturing. And to try and actually help your body correct that itself, if we can, we need to give that some time. And 3 months is a realistic time frame for us to kind of work on some of those areas. So I just want to, just give you a feeling that we can use this time. We can really use this time to help be productive to improve your fertility. So I've got a couple of steps that I want to give you today. So the first thing that I want you to consider in this overall picture of these 3 months is to look at your toxin exposure and how you could potentially limit or reduce that. If you can cut out some of those, that's even better. So we do know that things like plastics and chemicals and workplace environmental issues can sometimes influence both male and female fertility. And so it is really important to begin with right now, even to look around your home and think, where could you potentially cut out some of the chemicals that you're using, both to clean your home, your environment, but also things like cooking. I mean, do you microwave your food in a plastic container, or personal, hygiene products? Is there any way we can reduce some of those that are really high in toxins, parabens, that kind of thing, and use more of a natural option that doesn't have those chemicals in it? So that's one thing that you can proactively begin to work on. I go into a lot more detail and analyze what's actually happening for my patients and where we might need to consider toxins, but that's a pretty broad overview of some things that you might need to consider. The second thing that you need to consider is to review what you're actually taking. And by that, of course, medicines, but you can review that with your doctor. I highly encourage my patients to be very transparent with me about any medications that they're taking. I'm not anti-orthodox medicine at all. And in fact, I think one of our best outcomes in today's society and world is the combination of working with your diet and holistic therapies along with modern medicine. So I really want to know what drugs someone's taking, and I will never, ever try and take them off their medications. But if there's something that they want to ask their doctor about, then they can go back to their doctor and have a review of their medications, if perhaps that's something they would like to consider. And for some people, that's not an option, depending on what they need their meds for. But we also want to review your supplements. I mean, sometimes people come to see me in clinic, or I say in clinic, but online appointments, and they'll come in and they're taking 10, 12, 15 different bottles of vitamins. And while I could probably find a reason that they should take 10 to 12 to 15 different vitamins, realistically, in terms of the financial investment and whether or not those things are actually necessary for them, I think it's really important and really smart to have that reviewed. And so whether that's with myself or with another practitioner, I think it's really good, and take some time to actually pull back. Some people honestly feel emotionally invested in those supplements that they've been taking for a while. Like, they don't want to have a break from them. But I think it's really good to have those supplements reviewed. Make sure you're taking really good versions of those supplements. For example, different forms of zinc or different forms of iron. Some can be really easily absorbed and some are more harsh in our digestive system, or take a lot more energy for our body to break it down and therefore limit the amount that we actually get. So reviewing your supplements is a really productive thing that you could do during this time. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I'm covering everything. The third thing that I think you really can use this time for is to create really solid and good habits for both your diet and for your exercise. I love running, and so I would pretty much run most days of the Monday to Friday every week, and ordinarily. But in these last 2 weeks, the number of extra people that I'm seeing out early in the morning doing their social distancing, like their healthy distancing when they're out actively moving, it makes me feel really happy. Like I said, everyone's doing it safely. Like, I literally see people crossing on the other side of the road or moving to the very extremes of the nature strip to make sure there is that safe distance between them. But this can be a really good time for you to put in some good patterns and get some good habits with your exercise. And likewise with your diet. I think because we're not going to the shops as often, we're really just basing ourselves on our essentials, and it's a good time for you to get in the habit of meal planning. What do you actually want to eat for the week, and only going out and buying those foods and keeping those fresh produce in the fridge and using that for your nourishment. But using this time to create really good habits with your diet and exercise is really important through this time now too. And the fourth thing, I guess one of the biggest areas that I think we need to consider, is that this is a really good time for you to optimize your health and work on all of those different areas that I mentioned that might be impacting upon your overall fertility potential. So your gut health, your overall hormone health, which includes your thyroid hormones and your sex hormones. It includes your stress hormones, maybe your immune system. I mean, the list is kind of endless of all the different areas that we might need to review and factor in towards your optimal health. But they're all really important things for you to consider during this time. When I look at someone's blood work or semen analysis or temperature charts or their hormone levels on bloods, I really like to assess them from optimal. So yes, are they? Firstly, their doctor will have reviewed them to make sure they're fine. You know, they fit within normal parameters, which is a really important piece of the puzzle. I highly encourage people to do that too. I'll do that first, and then I like to see their test results and go through them with a really fine tooth comb, because I'm not checking to see if there's anything wrong. Your doctor will be making sure of that. Whether that's your gyno or your fertility specialist or even just your GP, they're going to do a good check to make sure there's nothing, no alarm bells or nothing that they really want to get in and investigate further. Full respect and for what they're actually doing. But I also think it's really good to go with them a fine tooth comb and say, at what point are those readings of levels that of people that are highly fertile and really healthy, and trying to optimize your blood tests in that from those reference ranges. And that takes us a few months to get to that point. So those 3 months, or having a 3 month, using a 3 month time frame to work on that, could be really, really beneficial. So I'm going to finish up with that there. I know that's a lot of information for you to digest in a small chunk of time, but I know that everyone's spending a lot of time on their computers anyway. So let me run over those, well, what is it, 4 steps that I think are really important for you to consider over the next 3 months. The first is to look at and work out how you can reduce your toxin exposure. The second thing is to review your supplements with myself or another practitioner. The third thing is, and if you're not having any, to actually implement a really healthy plan for you. The third thing is to create really solid and healthy habits for your diet and your exercise, so that we maximize the nutrients that you need for healthy reproduction. And then the fourth thing that we need to factor in is optimizing your overall health, everything from hormones to gut to immune to all of that sort of thing together.